The DNC is imploding before our very eyes. Earlier today, DNC Chair Ken Martin issued an ultimatum to David Hogg, who was just elected DNC Vice Chair earlier this year, telling him that he's going to have to choose between serving on the DNC or getting involved in the primaries. Buckle up, because the soy boys are ready to rumble.
And we lost voting shares with every single demographic except predominantly older voters and highly educated voters. That is a huge problem. And what we're trying to do here is not just focus on primaries where there's potentially an older incumbent, but more than anything, an ineffective person in that position, and replace them with a generational leader to build the future of our party.
Let me be unequivocal. No DNC officer should ever attempt to influence the outcome of a primary election, whether on behalf of an incumbent or a challenger. If you want to challenge incumbents, you're more than free to do that, but just not as an officer of the DNC, because our job is to be neutral arbiters. We can't be both the referee and also the player at the same time.
Really ironic, because I seem to remember the DNC putting its entire fist on the scale for Hillary Clinton, trying to tilt the election, the primaries, towards her against Bernie Sanders. Am I wrong in remembering that? I mean, come on, what are you guys talking about here? While the Republican Party has embraced new voices and outsiders like President Trump to truly shake things up in Washington, D.C., the Democrats have doubled down on dumb. They would rather protect their own special interests, their own establishment like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, than usher in a new generation of leadership and ideas. But you know what? I'm not going to complain about it. If the Democrats want to fight their own internal civil war, then hey, that's attention and resources that they can't spend on destroying the rest of the country. And you know what? Politico confirms this. They write, DNC gives David Hogg an ultimatum. Now, to be very clear, this is currently just a proposal, but Ken Martin made the news rounds earlier this morning to sort of tee things up. Then he made the official announcement during a DNC phone call earlier this afternoon. Now, they did a poll of all the DNC members, and this is currently poised to pass. It actually is overwhelmingly poised to pass, and it would force David Hogg to decide whether to step away from his DNC vice chair position or to wall himself off from the group he co-founded, Leaders We Deserve. Now, David Hogg said in an interview last week that he would fight to remain in his position, though he told at least two Democrats that he's willing to lose his vice chair position through this process, which tells me that he's already anticipating this proposal being passed and that he'll be forced to choose, and that if and when he's put into that position, he'll step away from the DNC vice chair. But it's not just David Hogg who's causing a headache for the DNC. Apparently, there is a full-blown revolt. Not my words, that's what Harry Enton said on CNN. He said, not only is it a revolt, but sirens should be going off for the DNC, right now.
Yeah, this, I think, is a revolt that is going on within the Democratic Party right now, Democrats and their leaders. I mean, take a look nationally. Hello, Democrats on Dem leaders in Congress. The belief that they will do the right thing when it comes to the economy. Last year at this time, 80% believed that the Democratic leaders in Congress would do the right thing when it comes to the economy. And keep in mind, this is Democrats. Look at where we are now. That number has been slashed in half to just 39%. Holy Toledo, that is the lowest number by far in Gallup polling. Democrats.
The lowest number before that, by the way, just for the record, so you know how bad that 39% is, was 60%. So it is a full 21 points lower than the previous lowest record.
On Chuck Schumer, view him favorably. In December of 2024, that was just a few months ago, it was 73%. Look at where that number has fallen to in just a few months. It is now down to just 52%. That is the lowest I could ever find in Siena College on how Democrats in Chuck Schumer's home state view him. And keep in mind, if you're thinking about a primary challenge, it would be a few years away. But Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's favorable rating among Democrats is considerably higher, in the 60s. So he is doing quite poorly in his own home state of New York. I never thought I'd see the day in which just 52% of New York Democrats would view Chuck Schumer favorably. It's almost unfathomable.
Yeah, I like the footnote, the tiny footnote here. I think it will look much bigger to the Schumer team this morning as they look at that. When you're talking about Chuck Schumer, why? Is there an answer to your question? Is there an answer to the question of why his ratings dropped?
Yeah, it's because they simply don't like the job he's doing as Senate leader. I mean, look at this. Should Schumer stay as Senate leader? Again, according to New York Democrats, just 50% say yes. Look at this number. 48% say no. This screams sirens should be going off. Primary challenge, primary challenge, primary challenge. When you're a Democrat in New York and these are your ratings, this is a big wake-up call if you're Chuck Schumer, John Berman.
Harry Etten, thank you very much.
And primary challenges is exactly what David Hogg wants to do, so no wonder the Democrats are in full-blown panic mode right now. Part of the reason they are in such dire shape is because the Democrats keep latching onto issues that are 80-20 issues. In other words, 80% of Americans are on the same page against what the Democrats are going for. And one of the most obvious examples is when it comes to schools. Not only like the backlash against DEI and forcing that down everyone's throat, but the fact that the Democrats just for whatever reason want to teach all about sex and sexuality and just things that are inappropriate for kids. So apparently there is this school board, the Montgomery County School Board District in, I believe, Massachusetts. Someone fact check me if I'm wrong on that. But as early as kindergarten, they have a book called Puppy Pride. Apparently in elementary school, they're already talking about BDSM and leather. Well, Ketanji Brown Jackson, in this case that's going on right now, Mahmoud versus Taylor. What's particularly interesting about this case is Christians and Muslims have actually joined together. Like, I'm a millennial. I grew up in the era of 9/11 and the wars in the Middle East, Afghanistan, Iraq, etc. Like, when I was young, Christians and Muslims were on opposite ends of the political spectrum. So the fact that in Mahmoud versus Taylor, you have Christians and Muslims working together to sue the school board, should say it all, but essentially the reason they're suing the school board is because they want to be able to opt their children out of these courses that teach just explicit material. Well, apparently Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson has absolutely no idea why teaching sexually explicit material to kindergarteners and elementary school students could possibly violate the religious liberties and rights of their parents. Take a listen.
I guess I'm struggling to see how it burdens a parent's religious exercise if the school teaches something that the parent disagrees with. You have a choice. You don't have to send your kid to that school. You can put them in another situation.
Oh, yeah, the parents, the responsibility is on them. Just homeschool your kids. What's the problem with that? Well, the good news is that by all current estimates, the parents are poised to win. The current guesses from experts are that the Supreme Court will rule in their favor 7-2. Of course, it's not over. It's not done until they actually vote and rule on the case. But according to Vox, the Supreme Courts don't say gay. Of course, they're minimizing this and branding it the same way they did Florida's bill. Argument went disastrously for public schools. Now, what's the problem for the Montgomery County school system is the fact that they allow parents to opt their children out of other materials. In fact, they allowed them to opt out of material up to a certain point this school year. And then all of a sudden, on a whim, they changed their minds and they said, nope, you can't opt out of this sexually explicit material. Here is Justice Kavanaugh going back and forth with the lawyer for the school system.
In the country has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The county has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The other Maryland counties have opt-outs for all sorts of things. And yet for this one thing, they changed in mid-year and say no more opt-outs. I'm just not understanding feasibility.
So again, I think what's in the record is that with respect to these books as they were deployed in the classroom, there was high absenteeism in some schools. For example, dozens of students being opted out in, I think Mr. Baxter said the average size of an elementary school in Montgomery County is 700 students. So each grade is 125. If you have dozens of students walking out, making arrangements for those students to have adequate space and supervision and alternative instruction, I think is infeasible.
But they do it for all sorts of other opt-outs.
They don't do it for all sorts of other opt-outs. There's a limited universe of things that students can opt out from. The Family Life and Healthy Sexuality curriculum stands alone. It is mandated by the state. It is something where you are able to predict precisely when the curriculum is going to be deployed. There's a
It's the most similar substantively to what we have here, and there's an opt-out allowed there. I guess I'm not understanding why Montgomery County School Board stands alone. I think in the country. You can tell me if there's another school board that's done something like this.
I apologize.
Both the kind of books that are being used and prohibiting opt-outs. And I guess I'm just not understanding. The whole goal, I think, of some of our religion precedents is to look for the win-win, to look for the situation where you can respect the religious beliefs and accommodate the religious beliefs while the state or city or whatever it may be can pursue its goals. And here, they're not asking you to change what's taught in the classroom. They're not asking you to change that at all. A lot of the rhetoric suggests that they might have, that they were trying to do that, but that's not what they're trying to do. They're only seeking to be able to walk out so that they don't have to, the parents don't have their children exposed to these things that are contrary to their own beliefs.
I understand, Your Honor, and there may well be circumstances where a school can,
Yeah, like I said, the Supreme Court, the way things stand right now, things can change. But the way things like if they were going to rule on this tomorrow, it looks like it would be a 7-2 decision in favor of the parents. Again, the Christian and Muslim parents who have joined together for this lawsuit. And that's 100% right. You know, they're not asking, the parents aren't asking for the school to stop teaching this. They're not even asking them to remove the books from the schools. They're just saying, hey, I would like the right to opt my child out. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You know, I'm old enough to remember back in the day when the argument, when it came to sexuality, when it was LGBTQ, whatever the acronym is now, because they keep adding more letters. But back in the day, it was just leave us alone, let us live our lives. Whereas today, now it's like, you have to bake us a cake, you have to read this, you have to do this, instead of just live and let live. My, how the times have changed. Well, speaking of religion, this past Sunday was Easter, and apparently there was this Methodist preacher in Illinois who said that Jesus was an undocumented immigrant. Yep, he dared compare Jesus, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, to the current crisis happening on the border right now.
Jesus was undocumented. Let me just say that again and let that sink in for just a moment. The very person we're celebrating today, the very one in whom we worship, was undocumented. Jesus was a refugee. Jesus knew what it was to flee in fear and to live as a stranger in a strange land. Jesus was that person. If Jesus came today in flesh and blood, would we even let him in? Would we let him cross our borders? Would we let him into our synagogues and sanctuaries? Or would he be met with a wall, a cage, or a flight out of the country to El Salvador?
So much is wrong with what he said there, but two things I would like to address. Number one, Jesus was not undocumented, and in fact today, he is very well documented. In fact, the only reason we worship Jesus and even know about Jesus is because he's been documented so much in history. In fact, he's probably been the most documented human being ever alive. He's more than a human. He's the Son of God. But you get what I'm saying. Like, he's been documented in the Bible, in history books, whatever. Like, all that. And then, second of all, if I recall correctly, Mary and Joseph went to Bethlehem as part of the census. I mean, am I missing something here? If so, let me know down in the comments below. And also, I just have to say, I cannot stand, there's this certain style of preaching where they emphasize every syllable. He was undocumented. Like, they put so much emphasis on it as if breaking up the syllables makes what they're saying more true. What I think is happening is they realize they don't have any substance, so they have to get more emphatic and emphasize certain syllables to make it seem like they're actually saying something, when in reality there's no substance there. Now, today I would like to recognize USMC Card, today's member of the Governor Club. Again, Governors Club are people who have tipped or given super thanks to the channel. I appreciate it. I'm so glad you enjoy the videos. Just one more update before we wrap today up. In a previous video, I talked about a Tim Walz, Minnesota state employee, who was caught vandalizing multiple Teslas. He was arrested. Well, apparently he's not going to be charged with anything. According to the New York Sun, Minnesota DA refuses to charge Tesla vandal with felonies, offers pre-charge diversion. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with pre-charge diversion, what that means is instead of charging him with felonies, they're going to recommend him for community service or rehab or therapy or something like that. Yep, basically just a slap on the wrist. Probably because he's part of the Tim Walz administration. According to them, our main priorities are to secure restitution for the victims and hold Mr. Adams accountable. Daniel Borgenbring, HCAO spokesperson, said in a statement. As a result, we will file for pre-charge diversion to best facilitate both of those goals. This is an approach, yada, yada, yada. So long-winded way of saying we're not going to do anything. We're not going to hold this man accountable. We're not going to even send a warning to other would-be offenders. That is very sad. But as always, all of that is just my analysis and commentary. That is what's going on in the world of politics from my point of view, and I would love to hear from you. So, question of the day, would you rather David Hogg serve as DNC vice chair, or would you rather David Hogg primary everyone, like all the Democrat incumbents? It sounds like he's going to be forced to make a decision. Which do you think is going to be worse for the Democrat Party and better for the country? Let me know down in the comments below. Yesterday, my question was, in regards to the new media seat in the White House, do you think it's a blip on the radar, or do you think it's a permanent shift? The answers were about a third, a third, a third. A third of you thought it was a permanent shift. A third of you thought it's a blip of the radar and it's going to go back. And a third of you agreed with my assessment that it's potentially a blip, but hopefully it's sort of the first mini earthquake before the true shift begins later down the line. So yeah, let me know. I do read all the comments, and I will share everyone's thoughts or the groupthink thoughts in the next video. If you haven't already, please be sure to give me a thumbs up. I know it's a simple thing to ask for, but it really does help me reach more viewers like you in the algorithm. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and to check out one of these videos.